Do you believe in aliens? Tonight, 3 women who've endured cries of derision because they do. Not only that, they claim they were variously visited by aliens, kidnapped by them, and raped by them. Believe them or not, please welcome Maria Ward and Rowan Hinton. Maria, 3 o'clock one morning. You woke up and you saw a flash of light on the wall. What happened next?
Next, I can remember floating through the front door and moving upwards and actually seeing a tree in the front garden and the rooftop to my house. I can then remember arriving in a room that had like a platform table in the center and being made to lay on this table. And I had various medical things done to me at that time. I had something placed actually into my head behind my ear that caused me a great deal of pain. I also had something placed up my nose, and at that point I thought I was going to die, but I didn't. I had various sort of needle things poked into me, and I was prodded.
By the aliens were doing all this?
By these little beings, yes. Little 3.5 feet tall beings, tan grey in colour, very big eyes, big heads. And then later on there was a larger being, about 5 feet tall, slightly different colour, that came up and kept staring into my face and was showing me all these images and things. And I had something actually at one point moving around inside of my stomach, and at that point I can remember just feeling as though I wanted to die.
This happened a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Is it difficult for you to talk about now?
It's still difficult because I'm still frightened. And the only reason I talk about it at all is because there are other people who maybe are not as lucky as myself and have as much support as I have had. And they still live in fear and isolation.
And what happened when you woke up?
When I woke up, I discovered several things were very wrong. I had blood around my nose, there was blood on the bed, there was blood on my nightdress. I had a small hole to the side of my navel, and I had a funny coloured sort of stain there. I had hair missing from the back of my head and a funny little imprint on my finger, and I had several bruises. Generally, I felt very, very ill and sick. And
Rowan, you say you were in a motel room when you were abducted.
Yeah.
What happened?
I'd been having a lot of stress about aliens, couldn't sleep at night, and they talked to me before I went to sleep and told me they were going to leave me alone because I couldn't handle it. Then I woke up in the middle of the night to find myself floating above the bed, and it felt as though somebody had hold of my elbow and was guiding me across the room and up. Then I found myself lying on what felt like a metal sheet, and there were beings all around me. One that I remember particularly was at the foot of the table or sheet that I was lying on, and there were bright lights, and I was blinking because they hurt and saying, "Who put the lights on? Who put the lights on?" And this one being was just staring down at me with sort of grey skin and very, very big dark eyes.
So did your aliens look like Maria's aliens then?
They sounded a similar type, yes.
And then what happened?
Then I just remember floating back in the room and landing on the bed, the actual landing on the bed, and I thought to myself, they lied. And then I went to sleep. No.
Maria, isn't this really down to a very vivid imagination?
absolutely not, absolutely not. A dream or a fantasy or a vivid imagination does not leave you with the impression of smells, with injuries, with psychological trauma following it.
Intense dream can. You
No. Everyone here has experienced very vivid nightmares that causes cold sweats.
Yes.
By the end of the day, you've generally forgotten
Yes.
about it.
I had a nightmare some
this
weeks ago,
experience
and I
just
tend to
stays
do
with
things
you.
as well. I went and scratched myself. There was blood on the pillow.
Fine. So,
No aliens came to see me.
so you are saying that physical injuries that I received
When
and
you say
other
a hole
things.
near your navel, what are we talking about? A pinprick or a hole?
No, it was a hole.
Can I just come and speak?
John Chesney, you're a psychologist. What do you make of these stories?
Well, we can't know for certain, David, what the actual answer is, but what we can say is that there are a whole range of possible explanations, of course including that you were abducted by aliens. It's possible.
They believe them.
They do indeed, and I don't want to knock their belief, but let's look at other possibilities. We know that at times of major change, such as puberty and later on in life, people often have the experience of floating up above the bed or floating out of the room and going off elsewhere. Astral projection is called by many people, but that's quite a common phenomenon. There are other ways of thinking about this sort of experience, including the fact that people often in times of trauma blank out. Now, what I'm interested in is not whether aliens exist, but actually whether aliens are to do with this particular experience here. And what seems to me is that there were some very unpleasant things going on for you at that time, with other possible ways of explaining that, such as you were maybe attacked, or maybe some very unpleasant things happening inside here.
Maria, what actual proof do you have that this happened?
Quite apart from a medical report by a doctor, I visited a local casualty unit because my state of trauma was so severe. And I was very frightened because I was bleeding and I thought there was something very seriously wrong with me. Now I'm an intelligent woman, I'm a very logical woman, and I went along to the hospital not really for them to tell me that the experience was real, because at that point I couldn't remember all of it, but basically just to reassure me in some way, because I was suffering great trauma.
Why would aliens be wanting to examine you?
I have absolutely no idea.
According to Porter, she is part of a larger experiment, one in which these aliens appear concerned with her soul.
She said, whatever we humans are, we have an animus, a soul, that is mysterious to them. And they are trying to find out, where does the soul spirit go at the moment of death? And that the non-humans were studying the recycling of the souls in and out of containers.
She talked about being shown 3 cylinders. Contained in each cylinder was a human being in kind of like a state of suspended animation.
Linda Porter came away from her 2 or 3 decades of interaction with these non-humans, including the at first terrifying praying mantis, that these are extraterrestrial biological entities that have taken a deep interest in the evolution of life forms here, that they have manipulated DNA in already evolving primates, that they have created a whole series of different models.
Might the numerous accounts of mantis-like beings reported by alleged alien abduction victims, along with the ancient San story of a praying mantis god, be evidence that an otherworldly race of insectoids really does exist?
It is a fact that the aliens show a mysterious interest in the human soul. And I say mysterious because of the kinds of things they do and say concerning it. Now, this part of the phenomenon is so rarely discussed in public that I don't think we really have a good pool of data to proceed on a serious discussion, but I'd like to bring it up because it is a fact that the interest is there and mysterious, and we should be concerned about it. There are a number of intriguing reports that we could start with. For instance, a young girl who the aliens asked if they could borrow her soul. 2 different abductees, totally different, totally isolated from each other. It happened to both come from the St. Louis area, both shown at the age of 5. A gigantic, metallic, spherical object somewhere in space, and we're told in essence it was the Soul Recycling Center. Reports of abductees who recall apparent past lives in which they've inhabited alien bodies with their souls. And even in one case, a man who watched as his young body was killed and his soul energy released, captured in a container, and taken to a new replacement body where it was reintroduced into the body through the technology of the little black box you might have heard about in some of these cases. For me, that's the end of my list of facts.
First you pucker your lips, like this. And then I better get a chair. I'm waiting. You asked for it. Hey, Silbrick, what's going on here? Come on, Silbrick, break it up. Come on, you're embarrassing me. Man, you got a secret weapon. Those lips of yours are going to be classified as top security. Let's go. I think you blew out a couple of her fuses.